You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hello, and welcome to episode 239 of the Soul Forge podcast.
Welcome to the Soul Forge, a place of silent mystery, quiet contemplation, and outright mayhem. Join your host, Sean Vanderloo, as he guides you through the adventures of living. Together, we'll talk about life and love, sex and dating, joy and heartache, memories and loss, and so much more. Don't worry, it's not nearly as pretentious as it sounds. Get ready for life, the universe, and everything on the Soul Forge.
Hey gang, welcome back to another episode of Soul Forge. Glad you could make it, glad you're here. And of course, as soon as I start recording, the dogs bark. Isn't that always the way? Of course it is. Wouldn't be a podcast without barking dogs. But anyway, besides that, what's going on? Well, I've been back from my trip to the Sault for about a week and a half now, and I didn't have a chance to record too many different podcasts over there. In fact, the only one I recorded was with my good buddy Andrew that you heard last week, the original Geek Twins, episode 238. But that's okay. So let me tell you all about my trip to the Sault. Back home, the old stomping grounds where I was born and raised. So let's see. Let me think here. Let me think way back. Let's see. I had the first week of February off, and my brother invited me to come and stay with him for a bit. So I said, okay, I will do that. And normally, I do not travel in the winter. Years and years ago, I had a car accident where there was black ice, and I guess I slid across the road. I don't know how many 360s I did, and I ended up in the ditch on the other side of the road, facing down. Like, the car stayed on its wheels, but the frame was bent, and it was not good. So I've been nervous about winter driving. That was what, 2001, 2002, that winter season. So yeah, I haven't really traveled much in the winter since that point. But Brother Curtis said, "Come on over, have some family time, relax, do all that kind of stuff." And so I said, "Okay, I'll do that." And he's like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm going to do that." He's like, "Everything okay?" I'm like, "Well, I'm not sure." And he said, "Well, I've been noticing your Facebook posts and your memes and stuff, and I figured I'd reach out and just make sure." And so he did, which was awesome. And so I spent a week at Brother Curtis's house. I got to see all kinds of friends and family and all kinds of things. And this is probably going to be a shorter episode because I'm really tired. It's been a couple of crazy days at work and other things that are going on. But here's a promo for, I believe, the Metal Geeks podcast right here on the ESO Network.
Have you been searching for that one heavy metal podcast that covers all of your favorite geeky topics as well? Well, look no further. The Metal Geeks podcast is here to save the day. Whether you are into video games, films, comic books, theme parks, or even, yes, heavy metal, then the Metal Geeks podcast is a place for you. Check us out on all of your favorite podcasting apps, and we are proud members of the ESO Network. Keep it geeky and keep it metal.
And wasn't that a great promo, gang? You got to go check out the Metal Geeks because of reasons, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, let me think. Where was I? Yeah, so Curtis was concerned about my mental health and well-being, and I guess he was right to do so because Okay, come on up. Hang on. There's Nimoy. He wants to come up and talk to you guys on the podcast too. He probably won't say anything, but he wants to sit in my lap. So here he is. So anyway, I have not been myself for the last few months. And in fact, my good buddy German, who does the opening monologue for this podcast, we did a crossover podcast. Me and the British guys from the Cosmic Pizza podcast, that's Paul and Dan, Did a crossover podcast with Stephen Jarman from the Play on Nerds podcast network. You know them from Muppet Trek and Sappy Crap and all that kind of good stuff. If you're not listening to the Play on Nerds podcast network, you definitely should be. Also, you should check out that episode of Cosmic Pizza. Anyways, Jarman said, I've been listening to your podcasts for years, and I've noticed a pattern in the wintertime. You seem to suffer from seasonal depression. I'm like, yeah. If you're noticing that just listening to the podcast, then it's definitely a thing, because I've not been feeling myself. And Curtis noticed, and other people noticed as well. So a lot of good support in that way. And so yeah, I traveled in the winter and spent a week back home. What happened? Well, let's see. I got there Saturday. My dad wanted to hash out some things. So Curtis and I went over to Dad's place on the Sunday, and we were going to have a big conversation about the last 2 years of how we haven't spoken and all kinds of different things. But he saw that my mental health was not good. So he held off on the conversation, but we just talked about other general things, just random stuff like the weather and women and jobs and life and COVID and just all that kind of fun stuff. So anyway, we left, and actually he called me the Friday before I left, because I left on Saturday, came there Saturday, left Saturday the next week. Friday morning he called me up and wanted to do lunch, just two of us. So we did, and we talked for a few hours, and I guess we had some kind of moment of understanding, because we're better now, I guess. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. But things seem to be okay for now, which is good. What else did I do? Well, obviously I visited my friend Andrew, because you heard that last week, and visited some other friends and talked to some friends on the phone and some family and all that kind of stuff. It was kind of the best week ever. The Tuesday night that I was there, we had a fire in the backyard, and I drank way too much. I'm not a big drinker, but it was going down easy, and I guess I just needed some relief or relax time with the family. I don't know what it was, but yeah, I got super blasted drunk, and Wednesday was pretty much a write-off, but that's okay. Also went to Vintage Games and Junk, where we have the convention usually, and that was good. Sold some things to Mike, the owner. Yeah, it was just a very relaxed time. Did anything specifically great happen? Probably. Can I remember? No. It was just nice to be off work, no cares. It was just really, really good, and I felt at home. And I definitely need to visit more often than the 1 or 2 times per year, because yeah, I've been missing home a lot. As I left Timmins, it was like a weight was lifted off of me, and as I was home back in the Sioux, it was like just light and airiness and goodness, and it was just so nice. So when I got back, I called my doctor and told him some of the symptoms that I was having, and he said, yeah, you've got depression. So whether it's seasonal depression or it's something worse, I don't know. But, and here we go, talking about the things that people don't normally talk about. And in fact, Brother Curtis said I shouldn't be talking about any of this stuff, and I should just delete the entire Soul Forge catalog and not be airing my dirty laundry. But here I go, not being mysterious and just telling it how it is. The doctor put me on some kind of depression pill called Cipralax for a month, just to see if that's going to help stabilize my mood or whatever, because I've had low energy, I haven't felt like reading, and I love to read my books, and I just haven't been able to do that. The sleeping has been pretty horrible. It's just, bleh. I just want to, some days while I'm delivering the mail, I just want to crawl into a snowbank and cry. And that's definitely not me. So because there's a history of mental illness in the family, I'm like, you know what, I better call the doctor. And so he's put me on this Cipralax thing for a month. He said I won't notice the changes for about 3 weeks. And he's going to follow up with me in about 3.5 weeks to see how the pills have been taking effect. And either I'll need more or I won't need any, or who knows, maybe I'll be fine once the spring hits and the sun comes back, and who knows. So my advice to all of you out there in podcast land is, if you're feeling pretty crappy and you don't know what to do about it, give your doctor a call. If you don't have a doctor, go to the walk-in clinic. If you don't have a walk-in clinic, call a telehealth line or something. Talk to somebody. Just bounce it off your trusted friends and family and see if what you're feeling is real or not. And you know what? It could be 2 years of COVID and isolation and lockdown and supply chain and Russia and China and Ukraine and all the bad things in the world just might be finally getting to me. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I took steps to repair my mental health, to shore it up, to see what's wrong, all that kind of good stuff. Is this an exciting episode? No. I'm kind of talking quietly too, I think, because I'm just really tired, and that's pretty much all there is to that. But all of you out there in the podcast world, make sure that you're taking care of yourselves first, because if you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. So this is definitely going to be a shorter episode. I almost didn't do one, but I figured just fill you in on my week in the Sioux and how awesome that was. And yeah, so if you're feeling down, maybe just a change of scenery will do you good. Who knows? I'm not a doctor, obviously. I'm just a mailman with a podcast, but I'm doing what I can to save the world, as Bill Nye would say. But that's it. That's all I got for now. If you'd like to leave a review in the podcatcher of your choice, please do. If you don't want to, that's fine too. Just do you. Whatever makes you happy, do that. So until next time, when I have a more exciting episode of the podcast, take care of yourselves and each other, and remember, your inner happiness and mental wellness should be your top priority. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Soul Forge podcast. Your support is greatly appreciated, and we hope you'll tune in again next time. Remember that you can visit soulforgepodcast.com for all of our social media links, and don't forget to share the show with everyone you know. The Soul Forge podcast is your best source for living your best life.
Think about it.
Depression is a disorder that afflicts over 10% of the world's population, but we as a society know little about it. Stereotypes tell us that depressed people are weak, unless they happen to be a tortured artist. It can be difficult to understand depression because it's invisible. It's a disorder defined by thoughts, behaviors, and feelings, rather than obvious symptoms like vomiting, rashes, or fever. Those who have experienced depression are all too familiar with comments from misguided friends such as "snap out of it" or "just get up and do something." Even those with depression might have a hard time understanding what they are experiencing, and they often blame themselves for not being able to snap out of it. To understand what depression really is, we need to talk about symptoms. First of all, depression has symptoms related to how someone feels. These symptoms include nearly constant feelings of sadness, anger, guilt, or hopelessness. Next, there are symptoms related to behavior. They include social withdrawal, a lack of energy, low motivation, poor concentration, sleep problems, or significant changes in appetite. Finally, symptoms related to thoughts include poor self-esteem, thoughts of suicide, and loss of interest in regular activities. Symptoms of depression must last at least 1 week, and they are often cyclical. This means that the symptoms can come and go over a period of months or years. A person who experiences depression once is likely to have future episodes. It can be difficult to think of these thoughts, feelings, and behaviors as symptoms. To many of us, because they are in our head, they can seem like decisions. It can seem like someone who is depressed has chosen to be lazy and sleep all day, or they have decided to stop spending time with friends because they have a bad attitude. But remember, what's in our head isn't imaginary. Our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors are influenced by a complex series of chemicals in our brains. The exact causes of depression are poorly understood, but we have an idea of factors that influence the illness. We know that changes to hormones in the brain, called neurotransmitters, can have a major effect on depression. Many medications used in the treatment of depression work by increasing the levels of these neurotransmitters. We also know that genetics play an important role in depression. People who have a family history of depression are more likely to experience the disorder. Just because your parents had depression doesn't mean you necessarily will, but the chances are greater. Finally, we know that environmental factors play a role in depression. Living in poverty, experiencing a traumatic event, or other stressful situations may trigger the disorder. That being said, depression does not always have a clear trigger, which often leads to a person not understanding why they feel so down. Treatment for depression usually includes psychotherapy and medication. Either can work on its own, but a combination of both medication and therapy has been found to be the most effective. In summary, depression is a disorder that's widespread but poorly understood. The symptoms can negatively affect a person's thoughts, feelings, and behavior to a debilitating degree. However, treatments that include medication, psychotherapy, or a combination of the two can help to manage to eliminate the symptoms of depression.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.